So I'm back on the channel for Belinda's, and obviously she's busy as ever, and I have this masterpiece. It's a wooden carving of a sacrifice, a ceremony or sacrifice of Mayan and Honduran type of animal sacrifice. I looked up and did a lot of research, and it talks about Mayans in the Honduran city and the fact that they pretty much diminished because they were living off what they had, and civilization just diminished like that. There was a major problem with the population of Mayan people back then. It's estimated around 4,000 years ago, Mayan people were in Mesoamerica, basically living, and were the first ever living civilization in America. And that is a fact. 4,000 years ago, BC, that documentation, archives, history, is there to be seen if you can access it in libraries, and you can access it even in the Congress Library, if you can get access to that, websites, and anybody who is a scholar, who has information and knowledge and major, high level of study when it comes to that. We're looking at this beautiful wooden masterpiece, and it's carved out so beautifully. You can see that the male is pouring the blood into the bowl, and it looks like it's either a snake or a fish, the blood of the animal, or a creature, which they considered the blood to be very powerful when it's an offering. I was reading up, but I already knew this, that the blood was viewed as a potent source of nourishment for the Maya deities. And then there was a sacrifice of a living creature, most definitely. And you could see the female there reaching out with her bowl, and the male, masculine, pouring the blood as she catches it into the bowl. Now, the carving is absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. This, I would say, is kind of a depiction of Catholicism. It has to be, because I looked up the religions that the Mayan priests and people followed, and the Mayan religions followed Catholicism in such a way that, they believed that the blood of the animal, or even of a human being, of a human sacrifice, was being offered to Jesus or a deity that they believed in and followed. And ancient Maya back then believed in animism and Catholicism. So it is very much something that they believed in so greatly. The gods that they had, they believe to this day that the city or the village that exists today has the four corners of each god. By extension, we got to look at the fact that the sacrifice of a human life was, I'd say, the ultimate offering of blood to the gods, most definitely. And the most important Maya rituals culminated in human sacrifice. Now, I don't know if they ate people. I think Aztec people did. But I'm going to go close up to this wooden carving at some point, and you can see the detail. And I polished it up. I cleaned it up. And I'm going to talk about the detail of it afterwards and what I'm going to be doing with it. And how do the Mayans sacrifice? That's what I wanted to, put the question out there. How do they sacrifice? Well, back then the Mayan priests and rulers also made personal sacrifice using obsidian knives, and they used stingray spines. And I remember learning so much about it from a person who had Mayan heritage and blood in his family. This is how I got the piece from him. He said that there was knotted cords used to draw the blood from their own bodies, the actual person's own body, and they offered that to the gods. And the ruler at the time, if they were to lose a battle, they themselves would be tortured and sacrificed. I seem to believe that there was a lot of people back then that truly had some amazing powers and belief systems, and it was all about offering to the deities, to the gods. And we can't imagine, really, we can only, well, we can imagine, but we can't seem to understand, but only imagine that the sacrifice and the way that they lived was brutal, because we're talking 4,000 years ago. We go through the Roman period, the Aztec period, all of those times after the birth of Jesus, after the birth of major people who was a major influence in the world, and now is placed most definitely for eternity in the history books. All of that was all of that moment of history. We're looking at the Mayan people, and that is way before. And I can honestly say that Christopher Columbus, when he traveled and he discovered America, way before that, the land was there to be lived on by the Mayans before all of this Christopher Columbus malarkey. But we honor the fact that he found America, but America was founded already by this history of people that truly did amazing things. Copan, what came to my head when I was learning about, I got a book on it, and Copan is an ancient Mayan city, and located in modern day Western Honduras. It was ruled by a dynasty of around 16 kings. So there was 16 kings, and that was around AD 426 and all the way up to 820. Now, we could look at AD 900, and civilization for the Mayans quickly diminished. So we had a huge ruling of Mayans and these kings. The 16 kings, the dynasties, were ruling for a very long time, from 426 all the way up until 900. One by one, that's what happened. The classic cities in the southern lowlands were abandoned, and by around AD 900, Maya civilization in that region had collapsed completely. Some believe that by the 9th century, the Maya had exhausted the environment around them to the point that it could no longer sustain a very large population. So it's very important people understand that part of why they diminished. They just pretty much exhausted the environment, used everything up that they had, and they built up and worked for in their little communities. And gradually, as the communities diminished, people were depending off each other in another community and in another community, and quickly everybody was just helping each other out or taking from one another through battle, because first come, first serve, or if another Mayan had something, they would take from another Mayan, and that was just the way it was. Another civilization that existed, if there was any, would have been a threat to the Mayans, but they still would have taken regardless to survive. Most Maya today observe a religion, and that's composed of ancient Maya ideas. We know about animism and Catholicism. There is a lot of Catholic energy with this, but we must not get too lost and confused into the whole resurrection of Jesus Christ and stuff like that. But we look to see that what can our own culture, our own religion, and our own history of our own race do and have within it to connect with the Mayans. Everything has a connection with the Mayans. It does, in some way, shape or form. So what we can do in our own religion or belief system, we can adapt and adopt these types of methods and techniques in order to the Mayan techniques, in order to use methods in ritualistic purposes and ways to get what we want. And it works. It is, I'd say, a very dark energy at some point, but we are honouring, we are offering to the gods, and whatever way a pagan or a Wiccan offers to the gods, or a Christian or a Catholic person or a Muslim person, or whatever religion that's out there, they offer to their type of God in their own way, in their own method. And we must learn from the past. We must learn by the fact that this hardship and sacrifice, they wouldn't have known any different. All they had was this life of hardship, because we see it as hardship, but we're not living this way, and they didn't see it that way because they most certainly had no other life but this, and they just got on with it. Some of the Mayans still believe to this day that their village is the ceremonial center of a world supported at its four corners by gods. They truly believe that, and no one who is an outsider, who isn't of that religion or the race, can say that they're wrong. They believe in it, and that's what they truly want to continue to follow. And when we look at the fact that these four corners of a city or a village have gods, when one of those gods shifts his burden, they believe it causes an earthquake. So when one of the gods shifts his burden, they believe it causes an earthquake. Small little things like that could have happened, and you never know. You never know. So the Mesoamerica, could we say that they were based in Arizona and that part of America? Yes. Very southern part of America, but I'd say that they scattered quite a lot in certain places. But the Arizona area, and I'd say more to Dakota area, where we look at the North American Indians, and we have American Indians further to the south, and North Dakota and South Dakota have that strong influence of American Indians that truly lived this way, like the Mayans. To be honest, there's a lot of people in the community who I have come into contact with that are very proud and openly want to let people know that they are Mayan and that they are Honduran people from this proud, beautiful city that they had. And they have a long history and a story to tell. We cannot dismiss the past and what people went through and what families are connected to, because just because we have a strong influence of Christianity or a strong influence of Catholic people doesn't necessarily mean that that is correct or right in this world. We will go by our own gut feeling. We will go by how much we connect through our meditation. If we are truly open to American Indians and Mayan people that use this ritualistic method of blood to, give power and strength in a particular sacrifice to the gods, then that is what we believe. Belinda takes the DNA of people and to put an anoint onto candles. We use blood for the ritualistic purposes to get people what they want. They send their blood and whatever, their DNA. That is the same. The stronger the DNA of that person, the better we're going to get some outcome for that person's situation. So 4,000 years ago, how amazing. That was about 2000, obviously, BC, before Jesus. And at that date, and now I know about it all, complex societies were living in the Maya region. Really, really complex societies. Somebody asked me a question, and I'm getting into a little community on a blog somewhere on the internet, and I will let you know where that is at some point. But I wanted to connect with Mayan communities, and they've told me about what they believe in when it comes to life after death. And they said that back then, that anybody who died with suicide or sacrifice or complications of childbirth, or anybody who was in battle, were thought to be transported directly into heaven. Now, whatever we see as heaven, it's spirit. We know that everyone goes to spirit regardless. We just go to different levels of spirit realms or dimensions depending on how much we dealt with our problems, and we removed and shifted ourselves away from the negativity that we go through. And if we address the issues, then we will go to a better place. It's tidying up here. Now, the amount of death and destruction and sacrifice and hardship and disease that went on back then, 4,000 years ago, might definitely put a spirit grounded, like a Mayan grounded for a long time. Or sometimes they do a sacrifice or a ritual before their death, and if they are putting that like a spell or work on a particular person who is going to die, they believe that that method or technique is going to journey them on to the spirit world. Now, before Spanish influence, there may not have been a common idea of the afterlife. You know, there wasn't really. They didn't really look and understand that much. And the Yucatec Mayans believed that there were different routes after death. So there was something that was going to happen, where they were going to go, and what was going to happen to them when it came to their spirit leaving their body. People, you know, look up at the sun and they sacrifice, you know, do a sacrifice using the sun, or they might use nighttime for a specific purpose with the moon. But they had their ideas and it worked for them just as much as it still works for us as witches. Now, they were witches in their own right, in their own way. And whatever happened to them, there were curses that were effective, and they did kick in to the target very fast. And as I go over to the carving a little bit more now, I'm going to pretty much talk about it just ever so slightly. I'm going to start with it looks like a man, because it isn't a woman, because you would have the breasts coming out, I believe, because you can see that with the female there. Now here you can see they're in a very much a religious position with the cross. Now, if this had anything to do with later on, after Jesus was born, and Mayans seem to exist straight away further, you know, after Jesus was born, this probably demonstrates that this is the early Christian period as well, where the Mayans would be offering the blood to, say, Jesus or a deity that died for us. Now, I know that it's not only Jesus that died for humanity, as they say in the Bible, but I'm not saying I'm a believer of that, but I'm telling you the facts. But there were other gods that died in a crucifix way, in the same way. They just stole that idea, I believe, to just control the masses and strengthen the church. You can see a serpent and a snake above. Now, I believe that that snake that is above that person's head, the judgment is upon the person. They're up there and they're being sacrificed, and the snake is surely the negative part of it, but it's pretty much got the person in the clutch of its energy, and wherever they may be going, it is very much going to be somewhere of a negative nature, I would say. That's what they believe, but I don't think that that's the case. I think it's gone further to their spirit goes to the spirit world regardless. Now you can see the fish. I think it's a fish, because you can see the tail, you know, the fins and of that fish. So I reckon it's going to be the blood from the fish into the bowl and the female. Now, obviously a major male influence here, but he's leaning down, his head tilting to a certain angle, and basically above would be one of the gods that they were connected to, and it is there. And and they are bowing to that. Now, they believe that they were just honoring, offering energy, power, strength. And if you do good things, they believed that good things would happen back to them. There are other various people in this. You can see one there. Now, I don't know what he's carrying really, but I'm going to just show you certain areas that, you know, you can decide for yourself what you think it may be and what you can make of the story here. There's another one there. Looks like he's chiseling or making something, or he's grinding something together on stone, preparing and assisting. But it is amazing, powerful wood carving. You can see that how beautiful it is. I shined it up with a polish, but you can see how lovely it is carved. It looks very 3D, doesn't it, really? But I honour the past and the Mayans today. Those that are still living and existing, they deserve to be heard. No one should judge them for who they are. They should be proud to be Mayan. And I truly believe that the Mayans were the first ever to set foot in America, one of them. And this whole Christopher Columbus of discovering America, that was a Spanish influence, but there was so much more before that. And once that Spanish influence came in, we can see that this whole understanding about the life after death and the afterlife started to come out more when it came to the Spanish influence coming into the story. They adopted this and had their own methods, but when we go back to the Mayan era, there wasn't this understanding of the afterlife as much. So this piece is going to be available on the Etsy shop. Now, you can go on there, look at the price. I'm not going to mention the price online, but it is a very rare piece. We decided to put it up to see if anybody would be interested in purchasing it. And it is, you probably never expected that, but eventually if it doesn't sell, it comes off again. And it's only going to be within 1 or 2 weeks where we take this off the shop, and it will never be put up for sale again, because if it isn't meant to sell, it's meant to stay with us. Belinda's very, offish about selling it, but then she decided it's a good idea to put it on, to give people the chance to decide for themselves. There might be somebody who's connected to this in their own family blood that truly it means a lot to them. But we're honoured to have it, and it's so beautiful, isn't it? But I would like your views and opinions to come out at the end of this video. I know it's live, and we're having a problem getting live comments on the video. I don't even know why, to be honest. But I hope you fully enjoyed this video. It will be up on the Etsy shop at Enchanted Bell Witch, and a very privileged to have it. I hope you enjoy this video. Please do like and subscribe if you're new. And if you have a story to tell, what you think that this depicts, what it is telling us, what it is actually showing us right now, down to the person who is in a position, in a symbolic position there, and you have those that are bowing down to the god above. That's what I see it to be. And the male influence offering the blood, but the woman serves with the bowl, catching that blood for the person who is in charge. Now, the woman, I'd say, be part of that main ritual, but the man is the one who's going to offer it into the bowl, very symbolic, and the woman will catch it. So, many blessings, and it will be up on the shop, and then you can see for yourself the price, but a very rare piece, and I hope that someone purchases it who truly can mean something to them, or they just appreciate wood carvings and beautiful art, which can go on their wall.